Okay, latest toy I picked up. Yep, another Blackcat Wawasee little modulator. This one is a JB-12. Actually, with the JB-12s and the JB-150s, they use the exact same case. So physically, from the outside, you won't be able to tell the difference between a JB-12 and the JB-150 without at least looking inside or taking the top cover off. And this is an older JB-12 because the smaller tube here is a 6AQ5. They use this tube for the keying circuit only. It's not a driver tube. It's not one driving one or anything like that. This tube keys the relay up. And the newer ones, they, when transistors came into favor, they replaced this tube and they use a transistorized keying circuit. For the most part, Blackcat used a 2N2222A transistor circuit to key the later units, and in the older units they used this tube here to key the relay only. And then in the JB-12 they used a 6BQ5. Trying to zoom in on it, but it gets blurry. But 6BQ5, which is a small tube in the JB-12, and JB-12's a dead key about 4 watts or less. It's got a variable in the back, which you can see right there. That's variable. That varies the input SWR, but it also varies the amount of watts going into this tube. And you can take it up, and they might dead key 10 watts for a minute, but you're gonna blow that little transformer there. That transformer is not going to take a lot of power going through it. So it's designed to dead key about 4 watts or less, swing to about 20 RMS, and maybe 40-50 with a real good tube peak watts out of a JB-12. And this is the tube that's in its bigger brother, the JB-150. It uses this type of tube. This one's a 6L6 out of a tram, but the JB-150s use a high-powered version of this 6L6, usually a 8417 or a 7581. Those are pricey, so some people are substituting cheaper tubes like a 6L6, or nowadays they got newer tubes like a KT88 or something in there, but you might have to play with the bias a little bit. But anyway, getting off track. Big tube JB-150, smaller tube JB-12. Also, the JB-150 has a little bit heftier power supply than this. Well, not power supply, transformer than this one. The JB-150 is just a little thicker, a little meatier than the one in the JB-12, and often with these you will find blown transformers. And what again people do is they dial them up, because you can dial up that variable in the back, and you can have this thing dead key in 10, swinging the 70 peak, and it's like, wow, look at it go, and you're gonna start blowing tubes. But 6BQ5s, especially back in the day, they were easy to find and cheap, and nowadays you can still find them and they're not too pricey. So people will blow the tubes, and that's replacing the tubes, and eventually the power transformer will blow. And once that's blown, it's never found a real good replacement for this transformer, something that's a size that have fit in there where you don't have to reconfigure it and all that, and has the correct voltages and enough power and everything. So you'll find a lot of dead JB-12s, JB-150s, little modulator boxes, all because people dial them up, which they'll do for a while until they blow up the power transformer. So underneath, we are unplugged. Yep. Underneath, this is pretty much all original. I haven't recapped it or done anything to it. That stuff there somebody else did. I haven't been in it yet because it worked, and I don't know, I'm getting old and lazy. I may just leave them original caps in there until they blow. I don't know. because I got good output out of it. If you saw that video of the Xeron, or you know, that silver-faced amp I just did, which had a 8417 tube in it, and then you look at this, it's kind of the same layout. You know, the components might be in different places, but it's basically the same thing, except this one, you know, has the tube keying circuit. The other one had the that Xeron had, as a newer amp, it had the transistor keying circuit. But you can see the layout's the same, the build quality is almost the same, and that's why I was saying that Xeron, or whatever that last amp I posted, that mystery amp, I said it looks like a Blackcat, very similar to a Blackcat, and this is an old original Blackcat. So, hey, you be the judge, you know, who knows. So anyway, I guess that's enough looking, and we gonna turn her over and plug her in. Doop doop doop, and let it heat up a minute. And we just did the Xeron the other day, probably 2 days ago, and haven't changed anything. You know, still running the little mud duck radio, doing a couple watts, and there's no tuning or loading or anything like that for these JBs. It's just the input tuner on the back where you adjust your dead key, again 4 watts or less, and I think it's down to 2 on this one. It's set for a 2-watt dead key, and I'm gonna put this on the 20-watt scale while it's warming up, and take the meter off of peak, and I guess that'll be enough warm up. So this watt meter is what's going into it, input power going into this JB-12, and then this one here will be the output. So in, out. Need to switch them around. I keep that one goes to the antenna, but I'm going on a dummy load. So anyway, audio, that's the mud duck radio going into it. RMS, that's 2 watts. Audio, talking to 2.5, maybe whistling to 4. And over here's the output. So I'm dead keying a little under 2, so a little bit less dead key. Then I got going into the amp, audio. But I'm talking about 7 or so RMS. And I'm whistling to almost 20 again. That's in, and that's out. And that's what modulators do. They give you low dead key and high swing. And also we'll put them both on peak. This one's still on the 20-watt scale, but on peak this will pin the 20. So we gotta put it on peak and the 200-watt scale on the little JB-12. That Xeron I just did, I think it swung to about 60 peak. What do you think this little JB-12 is gonna do? It actually has a bigger transformer than the Xeron did. But anyway, audio, whistling to about 30 peak. Audio, talking about 35, maybe 40 peak watts. And then this is peak going into it, about 7 watts peak going into this thing, 20-watt scale, and over here 200-watt scale going into a dummy load, no false watt. So that's gonna be it. Well, one thing I will show, this one here shows the input SWR. It's at a 4:1. And what it does, a high input SWR, it reduces the watts going into this thing. We'll see if I can key the mic. And I'm going to adjust the input SWR in the back here. And you see it going down there and down and down. And I can feel the tube heating up. And right there, I'm still on the 200-watt scale. It's dead keying 20 watts. You know, with the lower input SWR. So that's how Tram does that. I'm backing the input back down And again, I felt that tube heating up. It wasn't humming or sneezing at me or anything, but you want to keep that input low. And even Blackcat had the set to line meter, and that meant that you don't want to take the dead key past that line there, you know, right there or under, and that there is about 4 watts dead key or a little less. And that's what these things are made for. A JB-150, you want a dead key 20 or less, and a JB-76 with 2 of the 8417s, you want a dead key 40 or less. And I like to dial it down a little bit, and you know, for these I like the dead key about 2 watts and let them swing. Little modulator boxes. You know, had some people asking, what's a modulator? What's the difference between a modulator and a linear amplifier? Well, a modulator is not supposed to be linear. A linear, you know, amplifies what goes in it, just makes it bigger, you know. So let's say it multiplies everything by 10. So a 2 watt dead key going to 5, and a linear amp it would dead key 20 and swing to 50. Whereas a modulator amp, you know, same 2 watts going to 5 into it, you know, it might dead key instead of 20, you know, 10 or 5, or and then swing the you know, 50, 75, you know, made to dead key less and swing more. Actually a non-linear amp designed to do that, designed to swing. Swing is the thing for some people, including me, even though swing or non-linear amps like that are going to be dirtier, not as clean as a linear amp. But you know, nowadays unless you're doing something really bad, you're not messing with TVs and all that anymore. You know, digital and cable pretty much solve that. And there ain't a, you know, 10,000 CBers out there for you to wash and mess with anyway. And basically a lot of people, you know, let them watts swing, let them fly. So anyway, that's gonna be it on my last toy here, the JB-12. I'm gonna put this one out the way and get started on some of my own projects. Gonna stop buying toys for a while. But this JB-12 and the last Xeron amp, I like little modulators. I just couldn't resist. That's it for this one. Bye.